Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and today I'm going to be using this page map sketch from January of 2019. I pulled out this super old collection. This is actually the only image that I could find. Moxie is no longer in business, and all I have is these sheets of paper. I think I even picked this up at one of the expos in one of the clearance bins. What I decided to do was use this purple paper that has the word party on the top, and I just cut it down so that party was on the right hand side of the layout. I don't know that I really measured it more than that, just making sure that that party fit on the left. Then I decided I wanted to use this owl paper, and I have two sheets of it, and I wanted it to span across both sides of the layout. But the way that the owl was located, I knew I had to do a little bit of paper piecing. So I'm trying to figure out how much of the owl I can cut off, and I decided to just cut right above the balloons. I do that for both sheets of paper, and then I was trying to decide how much of the paper I needed on the right hand side of the layout. I knew that I was going to be cutting the paper where the 12 by 12 was because of the fact that I needed more of the stripe paper and less of the owl paper. I thought I could get two photos on the left like the sketch calls for, but unfortunately I couldn't because of the way that the owl was set up. So I decided just to kind of figure out the right hand side. This is where at this point I've kind of gone off of the sketch and not really following the sketch anymore. I decided to cut down a couple of the photos so that I could use a flip flap. I have the birthday cake photo and then the photo of my friend and her children. And then over on the far right hand side, I have a photo that I'm going to put flat to the layout, which is going to be of her and her husband. And then in the flip flap, there's a photo of her holding her youngest daughter, and then also a photo of her with her cake. So the sketch called for a 4x6 photo here in the center. I was trying to see if there was a card that I could use, but I couldn't really figure it out. So I decided to take a break and go ahead and adhere all of my paper down. So once I got the purple paper down, then I'm really trying to figure out this teal paper. I'm going to be paper piecing a lot, and I do a pretty good job of covering up that paper piecing. I'm pretty excited about that. Once I get the photo of her with her cake down, I go ahead and cut off the edge so that I can adhere that teal piece to the left-hand side of the layout. I'm going to use my T-square ruler, obviously, to make sure that everything is straight, and then realize that I put it up too high because I was going to cover up the word party. So I had to pull it up and move it down. What I decided to do was go ahead and start with the right-hand side so that I knew exactly where it needed to be. I just line it up right under the word party, add that down. Once I go ahead and get that down, I'll add the piece back to the left-hand side. And now I'm trying to decide how much of this teal paper I'm going to need for the right-hand side. So I'm just laying out the photos. The sketch does call for the photos to overlap a little bit off the paper, but I decide that I want it to go almost to the edge of the paper. Once I get it down, I'll go ahead and add my photos. Again, using my T-square ruler, I've lined it up on the edge of the teal paper on the left to make sure that I have enough space to have an edge on the right hand side. Then once I get that cake paper down, I'll use my T-square ruler to get the rest of the photos down. I'm going to add both of those photos to the flip flap so that way I can place it on top of the photo and make sure that I don't overlap my embellishments, which I did because that's what I always do. I went ahead and cut out these balloons, and I thought that I could add that to the left-hand side as kind of like an embellishment piece, but then when I put it down, I realized that there's already balloons there and it didn't look right, so I took that up, brought back this Make-A-Wish piece, and I'm gonna go ahead and add that over to the right-hand side. It looks really busy on camera. It does not look that way in real life. I have this strip of paper here that says happy birthday multiple times, so I go ahead and cut that out, and when I laid it down, I realized that I needed something on either side. I couldn't figure out if I wanted it on the left or the right. So I decided to go ahead and pull out my embellishment book and look through that and see what I could find. I have been using these doilies a lot lately, and I've had them for a long time. I picked them up at Target's dollar spot a long time ago. I start with cutting the doily in half and then gonna use it on the upper left and the lower right. I do tuck it underneath that happy birthday. I also bring out this white swirl chipboard. I decided to look through my dies to see if I could find something that I can make embellishment with out of these cards. So I pulled out a bunch of dies that I thought might work, and it doesn't seem like any of them are going to work. So what I decided to do was look for just some color paper. Looking at the layout, I noticed that the green was not a predominant color, so I decided to use the green from the back of the cut apart cards. So I looked through the cards trying to decide which ones I didn't think I was going to use on another layout, and went ahead and cut it out so that I could use the back. I first started out with this heart die, and I don't use this die a lot, but I love it so much. It just gives you like a little grouping of outline of hearts, and it's just really pretty. I also pulled out this film strip die that has 4 spots, 3 squares and 1 heart. And then I cut out a camera as well as a viewfinder and a couple of circles. I actually don't end up using any of those, but I have them for another layout if I decide to make another layout with these papers. So I'm going to add the green heart over to the left hand side. I pulled out this one single candle and I thought I could add that to the clusters as well, but I actually don't end up liking it. I found this ticket as well, tried to make that work. I laid it over there where the chipboard is. And then I pulled out this little oval shape that has some purple on it, as well as an acetate arrow. I did decide to remove the doily from the top left and add that film strip up there, and then added a little circle that has the word date on it, and I'm going to put the date on there. I've had these numbers for a long time. I think I picked them up at Hobby Lobby when they were on clearance, and I've never used them, so it took me a little bit to try to figure out how to make it work. I really wanted this like purple color as well as a green, because it does have a kind of a shadow, like an offset shadow. Once I cut it out twice, once in the green and once in the purple, I'm going to paper piece it together, and I'm going to piece it together both ways so that I could see which way I liked. And I definitely liked the actual number to be in the green, and then the striped purple paper to be kind of the outline. I did adhere the 2 pieces together. I felt like I might as well, since I have them and I was just going to toss them anyways, and that gave it a little bit more of a dimension. Now this is super thin paper, so it definitely could have used a little bit of dimension. So I pulled out my glue press to adhere those together, and then I'm going to add that kind of cluster down. I first started out with the word birthday. I first started out with that paper that says happy birthday, and then I'm going to add the doily just tucked under just a little bit of it, so I did have to pull it up just a little bit to add the doily back down. And then on that doily, I'm going to add the number 38, because that's her birthday for that particular year. I first wasn't going to put the center of the 8s in, I was just going to leave it, but I didn't like the way that it looked on that white doily. So I decided to just go ahead and pop it out and add those 2 pieces back into it in the purple stripe as well. Then I'm going to start working on the cluster on the left. I add the little oval sheet down, and then I'm going to add the acetate piece with the staple, since it's difficult to add any type of adhesive behind it because it will show. And sometimes the staple just gives it a little extra dimension. I add that heart cluster down as well, kind of nestling it in between all of the embellishment pieces, as well as that little owl that's on the paper. Then for the cluster at the top right, I go ahead and add that film strip down, as well as the little circle that says the date. And then I found this little enamel shape that just has some lines in it that matches the paper kind of perfectly. Back on the right hand side, I do go ahead and add that white chipboard down. I decided to add some of the green hearts that were cut out from the pieces on the left to the ends of the swirl shape on that white chipboard. I really wanted to make these little toothpick things work, but it just didn't happen. But I tried several places. I pulled out my color box in purple and decided to add enamel shapes to the bottom 2 clusters in 3 shades of purple. I decided I didn't want to add the purple to the top because there's a lot of purple up there, so I went ahead and pulled out my enamel shapes in like a teal color and actually added 3 hearts to the little square pieces in that film strip. I go ahead and use my glue press to add all of the enamel hearts down, because you know they don't stick very well regardless of what company they come from. And the last little thing that I wanted to add was up on the upper right. I'm trying to actually cover up that seam, so I do go ahead and pull out the camera piece in the lime green, and it actually brings in that lime green because I do have a large piece of the lime green with the hearts and the film strip. I thought by adding the camera over there, it'll bring the green over to the right hand side. And then of course bring out my purple color box again and add the 3 hearts over there. I do 2 purple and 1 teal. And then I'm going to add the date in actually 2 places, at the top where it says the date, and then down at the bottom, there wasn't really anything that I wanted to add to that little oval shape, so I went ahead and added the date there. And then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope you guys enjoyed this video using some deep dive stash. If you did, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.